Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Wednesday, the Leading Change episode this week with Josh Lambert. Hey Josh, welcome back.
Thanks, Vasco.
So Josh, Wednesday is of course the change day, and we're going to dive into that. So we want you to tell us a story about a change process you were involved with and walk us through the steps of that change process, explain those to us. And as you go through those steps, highlight for us the tools, the tips, the tricks, the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
Yeah, so there was a time when a team, I was really close with the Scrum Master. I got to lunch all the time, and he took on a new role as a product owner for another team. And he reached out and said, "Hey, we got an opening over here on this team." And I was like, "Hey, we've voiced a lot of frustrations over the years at lunches and how, this, it was brand new team building from scratch again." And he's like, no. He's like, he's like, "I haven't been complaining for a while now, right?" I'm like, "No, you haven't." He's like, "Because we're in a good spot." I'm like, "All right." I said, "Well, I kind of have some interest anyways, because I was on the same team for a couple of years and I wanted to kind of, I loved it. I think it's good to remain uncomfortable and move to something new." And so I came over to this team and I was like, wow, yeah, they're really good. But every team, even though they may be great, crushing everything, there's always probably some areas of opportunity that a Scrum Master, I believe, can look at. And so came in this team and just did a lot of just silent observations, just trying to find what's an opportunity to help with this team. And I'm looking at all the different data points and charts and just kind of listening kind of things that they're saying. And I started kind of in my brain looking at, okay, the cycle times are sort of all over the place with this team, and our committed and completion numbers, like, okay, we committed and completed 50 points this sprint, and then 70 points this sprint, and then 30 points this. Like that's very hard for a product owner to go back to their stakeholders and kind of plan out, hey, here's when we think we can get this done. And I was like, I kind of wonder if their story sizing is a little off, and how can I get better at that? I was like, I'll keep observing for another week or so. And then light bulb went off, or bell rung, when one refinement I'm at, team's going into debate on like what to size the story, and one of the team members goes, it could be a 1, it could be a 5, it doesn't really matter at all on story points. I was like, okay, yep, that's exactly what I assumed. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna take that as a takeaway and try to help improve this with this team. So we started, first started just kind of talking through what's the importance of some story sizing, just shared like some videos and built some presentations, not super long, but just kind of briefly, like how this helps the team, how it helps our product owner, plan out like, hey, stakeholders, we think we can get this done by this, because this is how our plan is going, because we're getting more consistent on our sizing. So what I came up with was, at that time, we were all, this was peak, 2020 COVID times. We were all in Zoom. And, I said, I'm going to utilize the tool Jira, and came up with, all right, every sprint, we have a review with our stakeholders, but I want to implement more of an internal team review. And so once the stakeholders are done, we'll just kind of run through a couple different charts together. And one thing I started to implement was, let's look at all the stories we completed this sprint and just do a quick no on each one. Don't need a debate. If you want to start a debate or can't remember, it's okay. Let's move to the next one. And if we feel, hey, this story was completed, we had this as a 3, this one was completed, we had this as a 2, and so on. Just a quick yes, no. All right, we had this as a 2, we got this done. Do we feel this was an actual 2-point story? Do we feel this was an actual 3-point story? And any story that was a yes across the team, I put a label inside of it on Jira, and then actually built a dashboard in Jira that we would use as a referral. And it took several sprints to build it out, but this dashboard would show tables of 1 points, 2 points, 3 points, 5 points, and 8 point stories. And we started using that as a guidance when we would start going into story sizing with the team. So I'd bring it up, or we start having a debate on how many story points to put on this. I was like, hey, let's pull this dashboard up. All right, we're between a 2 and a 3 here, or a 3 and a 5. Is this similar to any of the stories that is on here? And one thing that I also built in the dashboard is to just look back the last 5 sprints, because a 5-point story 2 sprints ago is more relevant than a 5-point story, a year ago. So anything, it would drop off after a certain time. So I had to get creative and use the tooling for to start doing that. If we were all in person, I would actually more recommend just having papers and bringing them so it's right in front of everybody, because when you're on Zoom, maybe not everybody's kind of looking at that. I would hope, but as a Scrum Master, I would try to share it with them to just to get those debates going with the team. But at the end of the day, our sizing got a lot better. Our planning got more consistent. Our cycle time actually reduced by 20% over about 6 months into doing that. So that's kind of where my plan is. I was trying to look at how to help a team improve, and it's just like I said, you just want to observe and try to help see what's where you can help that team.
Yeah, absolutely. So from this story, I think one of the things that kind of struck me as important was this process of explaining what we are trying to do with the sizing, right? Then did you work on that with the product owner? Did you have like a concerted effort to try to explain the value of sizing to the rest of the team?
Yeah, product owner, we'd always meet about once a week and just kind of go through like things that, how he can improve, or how I can, hey, can we bring this back to the team? Kind of coming to it he and I as a team to the team. So, and this one thing I had brought up to him and said, hey, I think our sizing might be a little bit off, but I want to give it, maybe another sprint or 2. And then he was kind of like, yeah, because he was with the team from the beginning. He's like, yeah, I kind of think I actually kind of agree with you there. And then when that quote I came out, I had mentioned, that's when I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to try to help focus on with us over the next several months.
And then when you were talking with the team, of course, they weren't doing what they were doing out of accident. I'm
Sure.
guessing they were happy with the way they were working before. So how did you tackle that? How did you tackle the potential resistance, or at least skepticism of changing how they were doing the planning before?
Yeah, so I think it was good to have the support with the product owner there as kind of a backup, as to saying, yeah, Josh and I talked about this. I think him being there with me to say, because like, they knew who I was, but like coming in as like the new person saying, we're going to change this, like you don't start off great with the relationship doing that. So having that support from that product owner, but also content online and sharing more of a visual of like, all right, if we want to get this particular amount of work done, if we average, 50 points a sprint, this is going to take 200 points. This will help kind of plan out when we're going to get that done. If we're, 30 points one sprint, 20, 50, like it's really hard to help plan out what we're going to commit to our stakeholders for the product owner.
And how about the relationship with the stakeholders? Because I imagine, the way you described it, unreliable cycle times, number of stories delivered versus committed, also all over the place, as you said. Like, didn't the stakeholders had conversations with the team, or was that like a totally new topic for the team?
Yeah, that was probably another working point. They didn't really talk too much to the team. They would attend and provide a little bit of feedback, but mostly work with the product owner. Why? I don't, that's just how it was structured when first coming in. But I think what it did though is I think it gained a lot more trust with what the team can do. Seeing that we're more on a consistent pattern of like, okay, I'm thinking this is what I own this as a stakeholder. This will be delivered to me, in sprint 4 based on trajectory of how we're getting more consistent on our sizing, but just kind of continually sharing, that with them, I think really helped.
Absolutely. And that relationship is very important between the team
Yes.
and the stakeholders. And when you said a moment ago that, most of the feedback was given to the product owner, that's critical point, right? Because then the team doesn't have any motivation to improve if they don't get the feedback in firsthand, as it were.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Great story. And thank you for sharing that, Josh.
Sure thing.
Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role. We'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.